Hi folks, this is Kelly Ann with Church Windows. We're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. We're going to take a look at the Church Windows tech tips for May and June. Oftentimes we will publish just a month's tech tips at a time, but when things slow down, not as much to tell you, so sometimes we'll combine them into 2 months. This is a new thing we're trying with our free webinars to go over the tech tips. Perhaps you're more of a visual learner. While we're doing this, there is a question panel. If you haven't done a GoToWebinar yet, you can open your question panel and type your questions in there. And at the end of the webinar, I'll go ahead and answer those. Should have Ross joining us. He's not here yet, but he should be in the room to help answer questions as I'm going over the tech tips or showing you what I want you to see. If he does not make it into the room, then definitely I will answer your questions at the end of the webinar. Try to keep those on topic, just out of respect for everyone coming today. We have 20 minutes. Usually I talk too much and tend to go over that 20 minutes. If at any point you need to leave, just close the GoToWebinar with the X on the toolbar, and that just closes you out of the room. All right, so let's go ahead and look. I pulled up our website because the tech tips are available on our website. They're always there. We also usually send an email out to whatever email we have on file for your church to let you know, and that email has a link to the tech tips as well. On your GoToWebinar toolbar, there's a handouts section, and I did go ahead and attach the tech tips to the handouts section where you can click on the PDF file there and it will bring it up to print. Let me show you on our website. If we look along the left side, under support, let me go ahead and get my pen. Got two screens here, and I can't use my clicking tool. I have to go over and get my drawing tool if I want to highlight something. Right here, about the middle, 4 down, and under support, we see the Tech Tips newsletter. So you can always access the most current and about 1.5 years, 2 years worth of tech tips by just clicking on Tech Tips newsletter within support. So let's go ahead and click on that. And here we see at the very top, May/June 2016 tech tips. And if you look, it goes all the way back to July of 2014. So if you've never looked at any of these tech tips, take a look. Some of these are version specific. So if you do go back and look at some of the older ones and you're on our most current version, then there may be information in those that is outdated now. Let's go ahead and look at May/June. To bring these up, if you do it from our website, you just click on the download now to bring up the tech tip. If you get the email about the tech tip, there's a link within that you click on to bring up the tech tips. When I click on download now, that opens up a new window of our tech tips. Now, if you want to print these, usually you can do a right click and a print, or there'll be something in the upper left where you can choose print. Let's just go ahead and take a look. The first thing in the tech tips is letting you know if you're a visual learner. Let me get my spotlight here. That might be easier. Again, this is the first time we've done a go over the tech tips webinar, so I'm kind of just going over it with you. But I want to highlight what I'm showing you here. First thing talks about is this free webinar. So I don't think we need to click on this link. You already found that link if you are in this room at the webinar. The second topic talks about the Church Network Organization Conference, or it was formerly called NACPA. They're having a conference in Dallas in July. That conference is called Serving at 60. And one of our former employees, if you've been with Church Windows for a while, you may remember Mary Lou. Mary Lou is a former Church Windows employee. We still have some of her fabulous pre-recorded webinars on financial reporting up on our website. Also, she has started her own church accounting firm called Steeple Accounting, and she's listed under our partner programs on our website. But she is going to be our representative in Dallas for this Church Network Organization Conference. So if you're going to attend, stop by and say hi to Mary Lou. She's a great representative for Church Windows. She was always one of the people I would go to if I had questions about accounting or don't usually take lots of payroll calls, but she's an expert at Church Windows and Church Windows accounting and payroll. What this paragraph is telling you about, though, we would like you to, if you have just a second, to fill out this 2-question survey. And there's a link here. You just click on Serving at 60 survey. It opens this page. One simple question. If you have time and you could answer that for us, I guess they just want to know about how many Church Windows people we might expect at the conference. So if you have time to click on that, please do. Oops, and I should have just hit back. Let me bring back up the tech tips. All right, so let's scroll down. The next topic within the May-June tech tips is our summer training seminars. Now, if you've been with us for a long time, you know we used to go out and do regional training. I started back in 2008 or 7, and I went out and did training in Florida and Wisconsin and all over the place. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't very cost effective with all the new tools that are available, online classes, the webinars like we're doing right now. So we kind of had let training go, but every once in a while we do offer training here at the Church Windows Training Center. So if you're interested in that, you can just click right here. It says Church Windows Seminars. And that brings up our web page where that's also listed. Let me show you along the left if you don't want to click on it in the tech tips. Along the left under training, the last option is summer training options or summer training seminars. And that will take you right to this page as well. Not going to read all this to you, but basically these are going to take place here at our center. There's a picture of the front of our building. That will occur July 25th through the 28th. There's a link here where you can click to view pricing and the registration form that you can fax in or scan an email, or you can send via snail mail. Also, we have a map and nearby hotels. If you're coming from a long distance and you need accommodations to stay overnight, there's a map and nearby hotels there as well. And then if you scroll down, you can see for each of the 4 days we're offering the training, the times and the topics that are available for the training. And then just a little more information below about the policy and pricing when you're a support customer versus non-support. So if you're interested in summer training seminars or summer seminars, take a look at that page and you can register there. All right, let's go back to the tech tips. Now, last thing, bottom of page 1, we have more information about our free online webinars. The summer training seminars are not free. Those do cost, but we do have free online webinars. If you're not familiar with those, we have webinars that go over all the different topics. Back 5, 6, 7 years ago, when the online GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, GoToClassroom, all that was just starting, we used to offer the classes online at a cost. But now we've kind of changed that, and we've moved to shorter little 20-minute webinars that go over specific topics rather than trying to cover a whole 50-page workbook in an hour and a half. If you've never seen that page, we can click here on free webinars. That takes us to the online webinar and recorded webinar page. Again, this is available if you don't have the tech tips or you want to get it directly from our website. Along the left side under training, the second to last option, free online webinars, takes you to this page. And here you can see all the different topics that are available. We try to put at least a month up. I think right now we have June. We have through July 6th listed. So all of these are free. Another new thing, let me go back real quick and move to the next page. Along with those free online webinars, We do record these, and every Thursday now we are standardizing and cleaning up any that were recorded the prior week and adding those to our Church Windows YouTube channel. So if you did not know, those were all available on the YouTube channel. I know we do have the free videos listed on our website, but the YouTube channel probably has even more. So if you click on that link or you go to YouTube and you search for Church Windows, that takes you to the YouTube page where you can see all of these. Now, I'm not an expert at YouTube. Looking here earlier today, it seemed to me it was easier to go right here to videos. And see here, you can see there's some that were just from a week ago, 2 weeks, 3. So they're pretty current. And if we scroll through, look at all those videos, and I can load more. More. I think one, oh, there's even more. So there are, now we're at the end. So we have videos all the way from 4 years ago in that fraud webinar. These last ones, I believe, were ones that Mary Lou recorded. Really good information, even if it is from an older version of Church Windows. But here we have all kinds of free videos. Some are 20 minutes, some are longer, but these are all here for free to help you learn how to use Church Windows. So again, that's our YouTube. Hit back again and bring those tech tips back up. So if we scroll back down, I want to return back to our training webinars and videos. A new thing that we're doing for June and July. Some of our training webinars and videos are going to have the label How Do I Start, or HDIS, in the title. And these are going to be specific, very basic topics for new employees, people new to Church Windows, on some of those basic things on getting started, like how do I add a person? I think next week I'm doing one on payroll. How do I add a person and deductions and allowances? And I'm not a payroll expert, so I can do that. I know how to start that. But let's take a look. Let me get my clicking tool. If we click back on webinars, this takes us to the same free online webinar page or schedule. Notice here it does tell you new for summer 2016, How Do I Start series. And it looks like tomorrow we have one for donations, how to add people and how to add giving accounts. Those are 2 things you have to do before you can even start entering your donations into the donations module. So the HDIS, if you see that label, those are basic things that usually you have to do these things before you can really work in the program. So if you're newer to Church Windows, take a look at the topics that say HDIS, and those are probably going to be really useful to you. Now, the other ones will be useful as well, but the How Do I Start, that's a great place to start if you're a new employee trying to figure out how to use the software. All right, if we scroll down, we have a little tech tip I added here. I write the tech tips now. Kay used to write them. And I apologize for the weird spacing. It's something when we turn it to a PDF, it changes the spacing around, because this was supposed to be the start of the next page with a little space between the image here and the actual text. All right, so if we look about the middle of the page 2, there's a tech tip here, a little short thing about membership. A lot of people aren't aware in our older versions of membership, you could change how dates sorted going into your membership profile. You can still access there, but we've made it a little easier. When you're doing a report, you don't have to exit that report and go into your profile. If you want to change how dates are sorted, I'm just going to go into a membership report here. And let's click on Sort. And notice in the lower left, we see Sort Order for Date fields, which is currently grayed out because I'm not sorting by a date. Let's go ahead and choose Marriage Date. If I choose a date field, that opens up, and I can choose to sort my days first by year, then month and day, or chronological order. Or I can sort by month, then day, then year. And this is typically what people want when they're doing their birth date lists. Or month, and then day only, and the year doesn't affect the sort at all. So a little quick tip there for anybody who wasn't aware of how you can sort dates differently. Right on your sort tab in the membership reports area, if you're choosing to sort by a date, you can choose how that date field sorts or what it's going to sort by first, right here in the lower left of the screen. All right, now let's move on to this. Gets into something that's a little over my head, might be over your head as well. I'm more of the tech that helps you with how to use church windows. When you get an error or things aren't installing correctly, sometimes I can help with those. We have a database we can look up errors in. But usually things like SQL are out of my league, over my head. So John, he's one of our techs who helps with installs and errors. He's really great with that. He wrote up a little information here about SQL versus Access. Now these are different programming languages, and if you've been with Church Windows for a while, you may or may not know, the older Church Windows was written in a language called Access. And it's slowly being rewritten or moved over to what's called SQL. We're not doing this to make your life difficult. We're doing this because of how Microsoft has changed computers. Says, like you see here, when Microsoft makes changes, so must we. If we look below, John thought he wrote this little technical write-up for me to add here that tells you a little bit more about Access versus SQL or structured query language. In moving over to that, sometimes what's called the SQL service, or where is it here? The SQL Server. Sometimes that gets interrupted, and Church Windows needs that to run for it to work properly. So if you get an error, he says here, if you get an error that talks about a connection problem or an issue with an instance, that's probably your SQL database. And this is something you can correct on your own, possibly without having to wait for us to call you back. So how to do that, and this was in last month's tech tips as well, but with a lot of people moving to Windows 10 and moving into the most current version of Church Windows, sometimes I guess that SQL stops, the SQL Server, and it's pretty easy to restart. But if we click here, there's a nice document that tells you exactly what to do to restart that SQL service. So if you get an error, I'm not going to go over all this, but if you get an error that has something to do, nope, I don't want to close tabs, I just want to hit back. Whoops. If you get an error that says the instance or something stopped running, try and see if you need to restart your SQL server. And again, that document is right here at the bottom of that section. Our accountant came to me a couple months back and thought this document on record keeping would be a good one to include in our tech tips. We did not write this. This is from the Church Law and Tax website. I included a link to that website here. Oh, hopefully their website's not down. It's coming up very slowly. There we go. So again, this is not, I said no, I clicked the X. This is not our website, but Suzanne, our accountant, keep clicking the X instead of just back, thought that this document would be very useful to churches, because a lot of churches print everything. Some don't print, they just keep everything in Church Windows. But the document on that site she thought would be helpful is how long should I keep income tax returns? So if I click on that, takes us to a document written by a gentleman, Richard R. Hammer, where he gives you some details about how long you should keep different documents. Again, this is not written by Church Windows, but our accountant found this and thought this would be very useful to churches and let you know how long you need to hold on to documents. Last but not least, and we include this in every tech tips because we can't stress how important this is. I think I heard Van on a call with somebody earlier where they'd done something with their data and it was messed up, and they hadn't ever made a backup. You should always be making backups of your data regularly, not relying on Carbonite or some third-party backup. Talking about the actual backup in Church Windows, if you go to Admin, you'll see there's backup. We also here in the tech tips, there's you can click where it says more information regarding backing up your data. If I click on that, it takes us to a blog topic, system backup. And if I bring that document up, it tells you what I was telling you, but it goes a little more dramatic even too here. Please, please, please protect yourself. But seriously, if something happens to the computer, don't just back up to your computer. Back up to a flash drive or something you can carry out of the church. If you back up to the desktop and your computer gets a virus, then that backup, you may not be able to retrieve it off the desktop. So it just takes a few seconds here, it tells you, to make that backup. Select what you want to make or back up and back it right up to a flash drive that you can carry out of the church. I mean, you can also put one on the desktop of your computer, but make sure you have a backup of your data. And back when we used to go out and travel and do regional training, we would usually say, people would ask, how often should I back up? As often as you don't want to have to re-enter data. Okay? I see somebody asking, I have to start the services every time SQL. Will this be resolved? Linda, I do not know. I am not an install or SQL tech, so I would definitely recommend calling. Whoops, or let me see. I don't think I had my screen. I'm sorry. It looks like Ross did answer that. I didn't have my screen wide enough. I wasn't seeing the answer there, so it looks like Ross did give you an answer. I am not the one to ask those type questions. All right. So that covers the 3 pages of our tech tips for May and June. Again, those are available on our website if you joined a little late. If we look under support along the left, the 4th thing is our tech tips newsletter. Takes you right to the tech tips page where you can see the most current at the top and then past tech tips just below that. Any questions? Now, if you have an idea for a tech tip or something you think would be useful to other Church Windows users, feel free to email those to support@churchwindows.com. I'm always asking at least once a month. I send an email company-wide and ask, hey, any suggestions for tech tips, things you've gotten lots of questions about this month or anything? So usually this isn't all just out of my head. So again, if you have any suggestions, feel free to email those to us. If you're in the middle of typing a question, go ahead and hit enter and then type the rest of that. That way I'll see that you are trying to get a question in and I won't close the room on you. All right. Well, if there are no questions, then thank you so much for joining us today for this new webinar covering the tech tips. Those are available on the website for you to view or print out. If you have questions later, definitely give us a call or you can email questions to support@churchwindows.com. Again, thanks for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. Feel free to sign up for upcoming webinars, and I'm sure I'll see you at those or I'll talk to you on the phone later. Have a great day, folks. Bye.